let's be honest, we all have skeletons in our coloring closet. Hi, my name is Andre and welcome to my channel, What Colorful Worlds. In today's video, I want to show you all of the ruined coloring pages and also some of the long-standing whips that I have given up on in my coloring collection. I'm doing this in part because I think that sometimes when we create an image online, and it's always going to be a curated image online, we tend to choose to showcase the works that we are the most proud of. The ones that end up on our completed pages lists at the end of the month, the ones that go into our Instagram. But the reality is, no matter how good of a colorist you are, you always are going to have a page or two that you ask yourself, what was I thinking when I created it? Maybe the colors weren't what you wanted it to be. Maybe you made a big mistake with it. Maybe you spilled coffee all over it. Maybe your kid came in and scribbled all over it. And so I want to look at all of these ruined pages that I have and show them to you. I don't feel ashamed of them or embarrassed about them, and so they don't really deserve to be in a closet. They're part of my learning journey and my learning growth. And the only way in which I myself can get better as a colorist is to experiment more. But when you experiment, you're not going to create a perfect finished piece at the end of it. You're going to create a couple of bloops along the way. And a quick hint for this upcoming month, I want to focus on figuring out how can I fix these ruined pages. So, welcome to the skeletons in my closet. Let's dive into the skeleton showcase. So I have quite a few books that have some whips in them, whether they're long-standing whips that I'm planning on finishing or whips that are abandoned into the hopelessness of never being finished. And these are the books that I have, which I have found some kind of marking in. Most of my pages I'll be looking at in this video are from these two books. The first is by Johanna Basford and it's Enchanted Forest. This is my first coloring book and it has a lot of wonderful bloopers and skeletons I would like to showcase for you today that hold a very warm place in my heart. The second is Sacred Places. And it's a lesser known book by Jason DeAntonis. He's the one who did the artwork, but the artwork is done in reflection with some of the wise sayings of the Zen teacher Thich Nhat Hanh as well. So it also holds a warm place in my heart. If you have been watching my channel for a while, however, you would never have seen me color in either of these books. And part of that is because they contain so many skeletons in my metaphorical closet that I get overwhelmed and I don't actually go into them. So my hope for March is to break away from that and come into these books by looking at these skeletons a bit more closely. Let's dive into Enchanted Forest and see what kind of treasures we have in our skeletons in the closet here. I'm not going to go through every page of the book, but just some of the major ones which have these skeleton-y bloopers all over them. This page here was a page that I used to experiment when I got some new materials, namely some watercolor pencils and also my Ohuhu alcohol markers. So these are my watercolor pencils here. I was trying to create a bouquet effect because I had just discovered Art YouTube and was trying those out there. I was trying to figure out how to do a nice gradient blend here. And it was using, I think, a chisel and pointed tip marker. It was before I had brush markers. And these here with these little white gel pen stars is me trying to figure out if I could create some kind of a galaxy effect. But again, with all these scribbles, I can just see, I can just imagine the impatience I must have felt doing these because of how streaky this was. You know, I never ended up completing any of this here. And it's still, however, a fixable page. The yellow on these rabbits are light enough that they can be a nice base layer. Same with the greens. And you can see I've already done some shading on these leaves here, so I can try to continue that as well. And it's not that hard to cover up scribbles on the background, especially if you use things such as black acrylic paints to just black it out and have a black background. So that there will be very easily fixable as a skeleton in my closet. The difficulty, however, is with the bleed through from those alcohol markers on this side. So I have to figure out how can I fix that. Maybe something that I could do is find a way to incorporate those colors into the elements itself. For example, with the roly bug, I can make him pink. For the woodpecker, I can maybe give him like a red tail, and then the rest of this background I can black out slightly. There's always workarounds and ways to figure these things out. Here's another skeleton, and this one here is when I started to create this map page and then gave up halfway. This page here is a result of Sarah Renee Clark and an epiphany I had about coloring when I saw her video on how to create gold. So I followed that tutorial and then was trying to apply it to these tree branches here, and I was just in awe of how cool this was, because before this most of my coloring was very streaky. I don't know if I have it. Yeah, here. Right, so it's not fully blended out, a bit more streaky, and I just didn't really have this conceptual understanding of layering and blending like I do now. But that one video and this literal page here is what kind of cracked that code for me. And I remember my impatience. It was so boring towards the end to keep doing this, and that's kind of why I gave up on it. I remember because it was unfathomable to me that it would take so long to do this. And now I understand, and one thing that's cool going down memory lane is seeing how much my patience is actually something that's improved over time. Because nowadays it will be a bit frustrating, but I won't really mind sitting down and doing this much detail over an entire page. I think part of the reason I stopped too, if I'm remembering correctly, is this mistake here. I had colored into the wood and I was like, whole page is ruined, everything's ruined. I stopped coloring it just because of this tiny little section here, which nowadays I can just take this, right? You can just like light it out a tiny bit. It won't be perfect, but you can light it out and then color on top of it. And sure, it might be a bit of a darker set, but when you look at a whole page completed together, no one's actually going to notice that there might have been blue underneath that one section. So that's how I can fix this particular skeleton in my closet, and a skeleton I'm so grateful for having this huge breakthrough in my coloring foray. All right, going backwards, this maniacal madness over here was when I had first opened my small 12 set of Neo-colored 2s. And so I laid it on thick, right? I was trying to get this as opaque as possible because I wasn't really understanding the transparency. And you can see that I didn't really know how to do that stippling brush effect that you might do. And everything is just a bit more scribbled over. And also, I didn't really understand, like, how do you do this and not have it overlap into the details? And then it started to come over the details, and then I was like, I don't care anymore. This is a lost page. I want to just see how I can get a whole page spread with this. And I didn't like the overall effect, I remember. It wasn't as like vibrant as I wanted it to be. It felt a bit more streaky. It felt a bit more like the first layer of watercolor, right? It always looks a bit transparent and you want it to be more rich. So I remember thinking those things over here as I was experimenting with. So I think what I might do here to fix this page is to continue with this blue all across the background. And then in the foreground where we have these elements, that's when I can really color over them instead. Maybe I can make them black at the front and then blue in the background. Could be a way of potentially fixing that one as well. So it's another page that I had started and then I stopped because I got bored. And I had decided to sacrifice this page, which is so sad. I'm glad I didn't end up sacrificing this, because this one here is the first time I've ever gotten a fur effect and I was so proud of myself. But I was going to sacrifice this page, and also I'm so sad I started to sacrifice this page, and you can see the bleed through, because I wanted to do all of this in Ohuhu alcohol markers since I had just received them. But I think what stopped me eventually was, again, impatience. So these here, I know it doesn't look like much, but they were layered and layered and layered from light going to dark. And I was even trying to make some look green and like half ripened corners, and have some color variety as well from my like slightly peachy to my dark purples to my greens, and I think those colors do look phenomenal. But it was such small detail to put so much color in that I got a bit sick of it and then decided not to complete the entire page. But it's easy to complete, and I don't think I'll be using the alcohol markers on it because I do not want to sacrifice like this page and this page. Have to preserve these ones here. Preserve your artwork is now my motto. But it's an easy one to fix as another skeleton in my closet. This poor buddy is the result of my sacrifice to create this gorgeous alcohol-based leaf page here. So I was just having so much fun on this page. Like, I don't regret the sacrifice. I had so much fun with my Ohuhu alcohol marker set. It had like a 48 set, and it was like a chisel and a bullet tip, I think. And I was just really enjoying it. Trying to put all these different color combos together as well. I think it might have actually even been a 24 set. It was like a really small set of markers. And the nice thing about having small sets of markers like that is you're forced to get creative with color combos more so than if you have complete sets. And so this page here was me trying to figure out as many creative ways of creating color combos that work well together with my limited palette set. And that's such a good skill to learn and develop and practice. I was even practicing some layering and some patterns with these little dots and lines and smushes. But yes, alas, we had a sacrifice. So now I have to try to figure out, could I fix this somehow? And I think the answer is yes, in two potential ways. One, I could make this just a really fun, multicolored page where I use the color elements of whatever bled through as my basing for that section and just have all the colors melt into each other in a really wacky kaleidoscope. That's one option. Or option number two is I could use some kind of thicker paint, whether that's gouache or acrylic paint, and just turn this into an actual painting itself. And so I use the line work as my guide, but just paint all over it instead, and that can have a really cool effect as well. So those are two potential things I could do to maybe fix that page there too. These ones here are not my skeletons. These are some completed pages I did want to show because, again, so much of this book was about learning and growth. After I figured out the gold from Sarah Renee Clark and I discovered that art YouTube is a real thing, I did what many of us did and I typed up color, help me with coloring, until I figured out the word color along, and I discovered, if you probably haven't guessed already, Chris Chang and her color along for this page. I remember I only had the 72 set of Prismacolors and not the full 150, so I was frustrated at missing some of the colors of the set, but I managed to still figure out like a close approximate of some of the colors and just colored this whole page in, and it was such a nice way of learning, blending and layering, because she's such a queen of layering and patience as she did this whole thing together. And even this idea of being able to white out and modify an element, because this here was initially a what's called a spider, and it turned into this light source instead, and therefore I practiced light for the first time ever, where we have light on the back of the rabbit and not much shadow in front of the rabbit, but there's this line of white at the back of the rabbit demonstrating how the light was hitting the back of the rabbit. And even here, having those be lighter and these be darker. So I was just experimenting with light sources for the first time in all the years that I had been coloring. So it was such a wonderful page in teaching me that. And again, it's like when you have these breakthrough moments and things just click, it just opens up this whole new world of possibility. And so I decided to continue the theme here, but just completely switch out the colors and go off on my own. And I'm glad I did, because so much of the joy of coloring is experimentation. So I was trying to go from fall towards spring. I just never finished the page because I couldn't figure out what this was. Like, it's an easy one to finish. Just figure out what that is, get that colored in, and maybe fix some of these streaks. So these streaks come from the way I would hold pencils. And that's another thing that I learned in this book is just don't hold a pencil over the page or don't like let the pencils roll off the page or store them in the crack of the book, because they're going to roll, they're going to scratch, and because I was loosey-goosey with my pencils, I got all these scratch marks everywhere. So those I'm going to have to figure out how to cover up as well. But again, like I said, it teaches you a lesson. And so now I have better habits with how I store my pencils as I'm working with them. This one I am super excited to fix. This skeleton came from me trying to figure out how to draw a black background. And so I had used my Posca pen, because I discovered Posca pen thanks to YouTube's. YouTube just changed my life, I swear, when it comes to coloring. But yes, I used a Posca pen for all of the insides here, and I was trying to preserve even like the stems as much as possible, and I was painstakingly trying to get that out. And then because the pen itself is kind of streaky and I didn't want to waste it because they're expensive, I switched over to paint. You can sort of see here, there's a color difference between that black and that black. And even if on camera it doesn't look like much, in person that is so annoying. And it's so visible that there's a major difference between the Posca back and that black there. And then as I was doing it, my hands streaked, and I got black over my elements here. And that's when I think I just kind of lost it. I was like, I'm done, I hate everything. And at a later stage, I thought I'd come in and fix it by using some paints. I think these were watercolor paints here. And I used too much water, it came out there, and then I angrily just scribbled here because I was like, nah, I was throwing a tantrum on this page. So twice now I had tried to tackle this page. Twice I wasn't able to finish it to my liking, and so it slunk back into my closet. But I want to tackle this in March. I want to see if I can get to this page in March and fix it. Because again, like, it taught me, I was experimenting with black backgrounds, and so I can do a black background much better now after experimenting on this page. The other storehouse of my skeletons is Sacred Places, and it's a book that I love. So much of these pages are pages that have been reworked and done, so they're like ex-skeletons. You can see that the sunset here used to have all of these colors to it, which I used a marker to kind of cover into only blue. So it shows you how you can layer things on top of things and kind of like fix them. This one here is a completed page, but I found the background really boring with this yellow and I had no idea how to fix it. So I feel like I can try to keep adding to this, maybe with Tule Art paint pens now that I have acrylic markers. That could be a way of maybe like adding an element here to take it out of the closet. But this one here is one that I'm very much looking forward to showing you. I often see on Facebook people working on their pages, and their kid comes in and scribbles in their book and they're devastated. So this is as close as I can get to that since I do not have children, but my nephew came in and scribbled all over this book. Actually, it was consensual. I gave him this book to scribble in, so it's not like he stole it off my cupboard. The way in which I'm envisioning kind of incorporating this is not to cover over it entirely, but to kind of like allow the childlike drawings to be incorporated into it to form the story. So just allow the scribbles and lines be part of the texture of the page as I continue the yellow of the sun into the blue of the sky and the blue of the water, and try to finish that there, because it's actually a very solid base. Like, the blue is where the water is supposed to go, the orange is where the sun's supposed to go, the blue is where the sky is supposed to go. Like, it'll be a fun one to put in because nothing's not where it should be in terms of colors. Yeah, so that's my last page I want to fix there. Alright, so other than that, the rest are just kind of like whippy whips. These were with some like, I think they're like watercolor markers that my grandma gave me, which were half dried out, and I scribbled and then got sick of it and stopped and never continued. Same with this, with those watercolor markers, just scribble, and then I just never continued, so that's one that's I'll need to finish and fix. But yeah, so those are the few skeletons I have here. So the next skeleton I just want to show you comes from Runes of Wonder, and the reason I'm showing you this one is because it's a skeleton I created last month. So it's not just my original work that are skeleton-y, it's even like works that we do now can be skeleton-y, and this is my skeleton. Essentially, I colored this using just my Jelly Roll Metallic-Ease for all the flower elements here. And then I was just being messy, I guess. And the distressed ink, or like the ink pad background, got smudgy with fingerprints somehow, and I just didn't like the overall look of the page. It's not polished. The flowers feel very flat when you color it with a marker like that, and I prefer to have a bit more shading and dimension. So it's just a page that I want to fix, and is one that had gone into like my skeleton closet. Even though when I look at it now, it's actually not bad at all. But when I did it, I was just like horrified, and I was like asking, why did I do it? So this is another skeleton that is going to still be worked on, because I do want this to be a completed book. So that's going to happen. But yeah, so I mean, the rest of these, I'll just flip through them. They're not really skeletons. They just have like incompleted pieces and works in there. Maybe this one's a bit more skeleton-y, because that is absolutely horrifying shading on her face. But hey, I don't know how to do portraits well. I need to learn how to do portraits better. So that's an opportunity in this particular book. Over here, I have a long-standing whip, and I just need to finish it. I'm stuck on it because I'm trying to turn this into a full book color along, and showing you how to color 1,000 different elements in a video without it getting too long feels a bit overwhelming. But I have a plan. I can figure out how to do this. That's from Magical Worlds. This one here, I just have never finished my page that I'm trying to follow using Nico Simi on YouTube. I'm trying to follow her color along. I just have to finish it. I've done all of the metal works here. I have to finish the metal works on this side, and then use acrylic paints to make a galaxy background. I cannot wait to do that. In World of Flowers, I have this. That's just a long-standing whip. I have this. That's a whip that I've never come to. And actually, speaking of, there's another one I forgot about in Rooms of Wonder. Keys. Like small little gold details that I stopped doing because gold's tiring and frustrating to do. But I'll just have to finish the key pages there. But there you go. Those are all of the skeletons that I have in my closet with coloring, and a little sneak peek into my plans for March, where I plan on trying to not just color new pages, but tackle some of these old pages, and in doing so, experiment with new ways of doing art in coloring books. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if so, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I also challenge you to show off your skeletons in your closets too. Let's destigmatize some of these ruined pages and celebrate them for the wonderful, quirky lessons that they have given us on this coloring journey. Until next time, happy coloring. Bye!